Hey guys, happy Friday!
Happy
Live with
Friday.
Carl and I. We're glad to have you here. Carl, how are you doing today?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah. How about you? Happy VE Day.
I know, I know. It's great to frankly get to the end of the week. Do you have anything planned for the weekend?
No, so today's a public holiday in England, and normally the first Monday in May is a public holiday, but because it's VE Day today, it's been 75 years since the end of the Second World War in Europe. They've moved the public holiday to today, so it's a long weekend. But no, I'll be hanging out in the garden, and I'm sure Julia will give me a big list of jobs to do in the garden and do some exercise, hang out with the family. So I'm looking forward to it. How about you?
Yeah, should be good. The weather's been fairly good this week, although today's kind of slowed down a little bit. So hoping we have decent weather this weekend. Haven't even looked. Get outside, get some fresh air as best we can. Obviously, we're all still here struggling on lockdown, if you will, lock up, lock in, lock down, you name it. But we're glad you're here. So as you're joining us, say hi. Really happy to have you guys here. We've got a really cool announcement to make today, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Um, but happy to have you guys here. So, Carl, it's been an interesting week to say the least. You went camping last night.
Yeah, so I want to tell a couple of really quick stories. One's about relationships, and the other's about legacy.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for some people to join, and I'm excited to hear your stories, dude. They're going to be
Okay.
great. But yeah, so you went camping with your son last night and spent the night. Big Rona didn't want to join you.
No, you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, you can tell the story of Rona not wanting to join.
Yeah, so last night my son and I decided to go camping in the grounds of my house in the UK. And my wife said to me, "Crazy, what are you doing that for? You know, we live in this massive home in Lancashire. We've got all these bedrooms. You know, why are you camping in a $50 tent you bought from Amazon?" And it's all about relationships. You know, I'm investing in my relationship with my son. You know, he's 12. We had a really great night. Some of the dogs joined us in the tent. You know, we had fun, we had snacks. You know, it was just an amazing, experience. I didn't get a lot of sleep because the freaking wildlife in my garden, man, is, I didn't know birds and squirrels and stuff made so much noise. But so I'll probably have an early night tonight. But it was just great. And for me, it's all about investing in my relationship with Josh. And whilst I think as entrepreneurs, we all need to invest in our family relationships, but what a lot of deal makers fail to do is really invest in the relationships that you need to build when you're buying a business. So investing in relationships with sellers, investing in relationships with brokers, business brokers and financing brokers, investing in relationships with deal intermediaries, CPAs and lawyers. It's really important. And so we did a couple of little videos in the tent as well, which we're going to be posting to the Confessions of a Dealmaker file probably early next week. So
Oh, very good.
if you're not in the Confessions file, you guys need to join that. I'm Confessions in the Countryside, telling loads of stories and deal making nuggets from walking around my gardens and my woods. You know, we have woods next to my house,
And frankly,
and
hiding from your honey to-do list.
yeah. So when Julia gives me a huge list of jobs to do, I go hide in the woods. I don't know if you remember, Adam, when you came, but my house, the river at the bottom of the garden, all those woods beyond the river. I just found out I own all that land. I didn't know. It's part of the land plot from this monster house that I just bought. So yeah, so I go hide in there when she's giving me jobs to do, and she can't find me, and there's no cell phone signal, so she can't track me either. So yes, I do that. But something else kind of happened to me today, which I just want to briefly share. I saw this unbelievable picture this morning on Facebook, and I shared it on my post. So can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
So I saw this today, and it just completely, blew me away, and it brought back loads of memories, and really kind of reminded me kind of who I am, and the legacy that I'm trying to build. And we talk about legacy as being a really important thing for anyone that wants to buy a business. You can build generational wealth by buying and selling businesses, and that gives you a legacy for your family and for your community that lives on beyond. And what was really interesting about this picture, so on the left, you've got you've got a World War II. It's VE Day today. It's 75 years today since the Second World War ended. On the left, you've got the soldier on the battlefield with all the planes and stuff flying above him. And then on the right, you've got the nurse in the hospital ward fighting COVID-19, which we know is a massive thing right now. And I've got a really cool, quick story about this. So my grandfather, who was called George Pollard, he died in '84, I think. So he'd have been over 100 now. He fought in the Second World War, and he was in this really fierce battle in northern France. And his platoon had been attacked by enemy soldiers, and his buddy had been shot, but he was wounded but not fatal. And my granddad was carrying this soldier, away from the action, and he was shot by a German soldier right in the voice box. So, and he couldn't speak for 4 years. And he survived, he went to hospital. And when he was in hospital, the Polish nurse that got him back to health was my grandma, became his wife. So they then had my mum, who was a legend and an entrepreneur in her own right. She owned hairdressing salons. And then obviously my mum made me. And I've always felt in my life, Adam, that, I'm carrying on like my grandfather's legacy. If he'd have been shot and killed, I wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Dealmaker Wealth Society probably wouldn't exist. So every single day, I just feel so honored to be alive and continuing the legacy that he's got. And I talk to my own boys about who would have been their great grandfather, and I show them pictures. I show them all the medals. He won a lot of medals of honor for fighting in the war. And when that bullet hit him, that was his last action ever as a soldier, because after that, he wasn't fit enough to kind of fight again. And I just saw that picture today, and it got me really thinking about legacy, and his legacy, what he's built, and the legacy that I'm building in my own life, that I know my sons will carry on as well. So legacy is one of the great benefits of buying and selling businesses, because it gives you generational wealth in some cases, and you can do a lot of good with money of that magnitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, Carl, it's an incredible story. I mean, not too many people take a bullet to any part of their body, let alone their neck, and survive and are able to frankly continue building a legacy. So really appreciate you sharing that story. And it's always good to remember, right? At the end of the day, we talk about why we're doing this, and we all have our own reasons, but most of them come from a internal desire to really build our own legacies and our own path. And many of us do it both with the honor, like Carl, of those who have come before, but for those around us, family is incredibly important to certainly Carl and myself. And it's something that, I'm sure is important to many of you. So guys, thanks for joining us on this Friday, VE Day over in the UK. And just say hi in the chat, ask us questions. We're looking forward to answering them. Like I said a few minutes ago, we've got a really cool announcement to make. We'll make at the end. Super excited for this. It comes off the back of a conversation Carl and I had yesterday. So we're really excited for this. So stay tuned to the end. It's something really cool. So anyways, let's start diving into some questions. Looks like we've gotten, let's see here, trying to click over. My computer will let me. It is not. All right. So we've got Faith. Hi, Faith. So we've got a question here from looks like Edge Dapo. I want to send letters to develop off-market leads. I have a feeling it may come off as predatory, given we are still in COVID. What are your thoughts? Carl, do
Yeah.
you think it's predatory?
No, if you write the letter in the right way, if you use the template that is inside of the Dealmaker CEO program, then the direct letter template, then you won't come off as predatory, because in that letter, you're doing lots of really cool psychological things. So number one, you're building the relationship with that person before you've actually even met them or spoken to them, and you're complimenting them on what you like about their business, and you're telling them things about them from Facebook and LinkedIn, if you can track their profiles, that's really going to build rapport and build a relationship. And that seller might be sat there thinking, you know what, I know I can pivot my business, but I just don't want to. I've been doing this for too long, and I don't want to think outside the box, but no one's going to buy my business now, surely. And then your lovely tailored letter hits their doorstep, and it's going to make their heart sing. So no, it's not predatory at all, in my opinion, if you do it the right way.
Yeah, and I think that's the important element, right? If you do it in the right way. And this comes down to, you're not going in there and saying, hey, I'm here to buy your business for as little as possible because you're struggling, or you might have had a hiccup, so I'm not going to give you any value whatsoever. We adamantly are not supporters of that at all. We're not profiteers. We're not taking toilet paper and selling it for $100 a roll. What we're doing is we're trying to unlock opportunity for ourselves through business acquisition. And to do that, it also means it includes taking care of the person who is selling the business. I'm a big believer of really putting goodwill out there as best as I can. And that includes treating sellers and brokers and other intermediaries with a whole lot of respect, and affording them the opportunity to walk away feeling like they've won. I was on a call with a seller the other day, and it was exactly this situation. Prior to the call, the broker was adamant, you absolutely cannot talk about the deal, the price, the structure, and all this. But through the course of the call, we're 30 minutes in, and in just that 30 minutes, I've built enough rapport and relationship and understanding of who we are and the value we provide, right? At the end of the day, I'm not here to abuse the business or neglect it or be really bad to the employees or anything like that. I want to protect what they've built. And I'm very, very, very transparent about that. And ultimately, we were able to have a real conversation about real elements of the deal that were allegedly off limits prior to the call. So just in the span of that 30 minutes, it was an hour-long call, but just in that span, you can see the movement that can happen with people when you build a relationship and approach it the right way. You want to be sincere, you want to be genuine, and you can do that even in the written word, even in direct approach letters. It's about how you use your language and about how you write it. Carl's got a fabulous template, but you've got to modify it, and you've got to individualize it for your recipient. If you do that and you show you're caring and you're the kind of person who can be trusted and is willing to do what it takes to protect what they've built, then you'll get a good response rate. You've just got to put a little bit of the work in to make sure you don't come off as cheap or chintzy or things like that. So.
Yep. And the absolute master of that, Adam, I don't know if you've read the book, the absolute master of that as a deal maker was Jack Welch. So Jack Welch was the CEO of GE, sadly passed away not too long ago. And, he took the GE market cap from like 20 billion to about 350 billion during his tenure. And a lot of that came through buying businesses. And in his autobiography, Jack, Straight from the Gut, he talked about all the deals that he did. And his classic negotiation strategy was to always make the seller feel they got the better end of the deal. And it's all psychology. And psychology is really hard on multi-billion-dollar deals. It's the whole ball game when you're buying a $1 to $10 million business. But for billion-dollar deals, it's really hard to layer psychology into the negotiation. But he was an absolute master of that. So if you guys have got some spare time this weekend, I think you can get it on Kindle for a couple of dollars. It's a really fascinating book, not just about leadership and management and growing businesses, but he talks about all of his acquisitions in there. There's some really, really interesting nuggets inside of that book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think again, we've talked about it a lot, and it's really important to remember that relationship is such a key element of what we do. And if you're sincere around how you do that across all formats and really all manners of communication, phone, video, letters, etc. And if you're consistent with who you are and what you want, you will be successful. But it takes a little bit of work. So we've got Robert on the line. He's watching us on a 65-inch TV, Carl.
Awesome. Good
65
stuff.
inches. That's a hell of a.
That's a big screen.
That's a big screen. I'm not sure I want to know what my face or your face looks like that large.
Not particularly. No, I've got a face for radio. So
yeah, I've got a face and voice for sitting at home not talking. So here we are. I don't even have the radio voice. But Sharik, hey, how are you? John, hey, how are you? Glad to have you guys. Feel free to ask some questions. Code Nero's got a question for us. Man, we're continuing the trend from last week where we had tremendous names coming.
Code Nero.
Code Nero. So what would you recommend for a business with a low EBITDA and no marketing? If you knew you could grow it with marketing, would you shoot for it if it is out of the requirements of your dream deal? Well, let's first establish what a dream deal is, right? A dream deal for everyone's going to be a little bit different, right? A dream deal for you is probably a little bit different than for me or for Carl or so on and so forth, right? Every situation is different. So your dream is probably a little different. So you've got to be able to define that. If you're looking to be an owner investor only, jumping into a business where you've got to roll up your sleeves and really apply marketing and add that to the deal, that's not really a typical investor situation unless you've got people who work for you that you can plug in that capacity. However, it's just important to realize that, what your criteria are slightly different. So as a manager, if you're comfortable jumping in and maybe for 6 months, 12 months, really exploding things, then yeah, why not? Give it a shot. Because at the end of the day, and I say this without knowing anything of the deal, so I don't really know if it's a good opportunity or not. However, what I do want to say is people have to be action takers if they're going to be deal makers. If this is a deal that you can do, you believe that you can add value to and you can be successful at, take action, close the deal. If it's something that can be financed, if it's something that can be bought, take action, right? It's really important to know that you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so knowing that, you've got to remember that it might not be perfect, but I would argue I've never in my entire life seen a perfect deal. Carl, have you?
No,
yeah,
I've looked at tens of thousands. I've never seen the perfect deal. But what's really interesting about this question, just a couple of things I want to add to it is, one of the key requirements of a perfect deal is do you know the sector? Are you passionate about it? And can you add value to it as an owner investor or as an owner manager? And if you're really passionate about the business, but you don't know the industry, just go partner with somebody that does and, do the deal together. Great minds think alike. And when you talk about a business that does no marketing, that's 80% of the businesses that you will come across. They do little to no marketing. Their revenues are repeat customers and word of mouth referrals. And I love those deals for two reasons. One, it tells you you've got a really solid business if all their customers are referring them to other customers, and you know that revenue will continue going forward. Your job then is to put the marketing in place and to grow that business. And in the CEO program, in the 100-day training, I show you a blueprint of how to do that. It's all upside. It's all incremental growth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just really, really important. Just really, really important, right? So let's see here. We've got Scott. Should I partner with someone on my first deal, and how would I find a good partner? The answer is yes, absolutely. Uh, Never ever think you have to do this alone. Certainly, Carl and I partner with people through Prox Capital Group, which is our investment group. We partner with each other, right? Not only did I buy Carl's business, but we jumped in bed, so to speak, and are partners on many more now, right? And so it's important to realize you can have a good partner, and realize you want your partner to do really three things ideally, right? One, you want them to be knowledgeable to some degree and be able to add value in whatever business you're buying. That's a really cool and key element. I think about partners we know of where different ages, different backgrounds, who met at a Dealmaker meetup and have since bought businesses together. They have different skill sets, they have different knowledge bases, they have different energy levels, and it's really exciting. They're making things happen because they found a good partner. Most importantly, they do different things and have different skill sets to add to any business they buy, right? Strategically, they're owner investors. The second thing is capital. Ideally, this person's got capital. You can bring someone in who can help fund deals, right? If you need a closing payment and the business won't support it entirely through financing or anything like that, it doesn't hurt to have someone who can inject some capital. And that's really important. It's not a mandatory requirement of a partner. Let me be clear. It's not mandatory. Sometimes that expertise and things like that is more important than them having money. I know a deal that we closed with a partner of ours. We actually brought in a third partner, and that person runs the business we've acquired, right? They're the operating partner out of the group of three. Carl and I as one group, the partner who found the deal, and then the person who's running it. So it's really important to know that it's okay to have those situations, and we highly encourage you to build your network of people. The third thing is really tied to the second, but it's not really money. It's someone who's got the capacity to personally guarantee loans, right? If you don't have that capacity because of your own financial situation, find someone who can be a personal guarantee in return for some equity, right? This is someone who's got personal net worth, but doesn't necessarily have cash to drop into equity. They've got other income streams or things like that can help support a personal guarantee. So those are really the three things I would say if you're looking for a partner you want to evaluate. None of them preclude you working with them. You can find someone who's just adding value in some other way, but generally speaking, they need to have one of those three things. If I had to put a priority on it, I would do the first one, which is they have some knowledge or expertise that can unlock value for the acquisition. Carl, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, absolutely nailed it, Adam. That's completely congruent with my beliefs as well. So hey, really cool question that's just come into the chat from David. What's the standard amount that a seller should leave in the business as working capital? Is it 3 to 6 months? And what is the best way to calculate what the monthly working capital amount is for a business? So I'll hit that really quickly, Adam, and then I'll turn it over to you. So there's two things that we look at when we're doing deals. So the first thing is when you talk about working capital, the accounting term for that is called net current assets. So it's the total current assets in the business, like cash, receivables, inventory, and those things, less the total current liabilities. And those are debts that the business has to pay within a 12-month period. So payables, taxes, bank loans, all that kind of stuff, interest. So that's all what that's all about. And then what we do is we look at, this is why you need monthly reporting on a business, typically for the last 2 years. So when you're zeroing in on a deal, ideally before you do due diligence, you want to see what the revenues and profits and balance sheet items are month on month for a 2-year period. Then you can see how seasonal the business is in terms of how much net current assets or working capital that it's consuming. And you can get the trends. There's going to be months which are really high, months which are really low. Your goal is to buy that business with as much working capital inside of it as you can possibly negotiate. So for us, we start off, we'll take the highest amount of working capital that the business has seen over the last 2 years. And that's our starting point, because working capital, that number, it goes in your letter of intent, because that's the amount of capital you want to see in the business once you've acquired it. There's one other thing that we check as well, and we also want to set a minimum level of cash that we want in the business. So we break cash out of working capital, and we want to see a minimum of 1 month's sales revenues as cash in that business. So if the business is doing $1.2 million a year, say, in revenues, we want to see that business having at least $100,000 of cash, in addition to having as much working capital as we can possibly negotiate into the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it's really important to realize you never want to get in a situation where your business is starved for cash from the beginning. Say you've brought in a partner like we were just talking about, and they're the capital partner, so they're putting up money to say close the deal. You don't want to go to them 30 days after you close and say, hey, by the way, we need more cash. That's just never a good situation. So in part of your deal making, and this is where in Dealmaker CEO with the simple model and all kinds of other things that Carl has built in there, it walks through exactly what you're looking for from a working capital perspective. And frankly, it's the same methodology we use in our own private equity group, Carl and mine, to analyze deals and put offers together. It's the exact same kind of cash, not magic, but cash expectation, working capital expectations. It's the exact same thing we do. So you're getting the same thing that we actually do in our own investments. So it's super important that you guys have that kind of conservative approach. It's just really important. So let's see here. Cool comment. Edge said, thanks, Adam and Carl. What you guys are doing here is legitimately awesome. Thanks. We like to think so too. You know, our goal is to really empower you guys to become deal makers in your own right and ultimately change your life for the better. To that end, really cool announcement. We're going to have it at the end of today's Q&A. Really, really cool. You guys are going to absolutely love it. One thing, Carl, I do want to kind of jump in around kind of working capital in general, and what people need to understand is that you've really got to have a good foundational understanding of the financials of a company and what it looks like. You mentioned, hey, get 2 years of monthly financial statements for the business you're looking to buy. We've talked about it before, I believe. If not, we're going to right now. It's every business, bar none. Every single business has some level of seasonality in it. It can be very minor. It can be very big, right? Something that's got massive variability is something like a snowball stand, right? Where you can get little frozen ice, or a ski resort, right? You're not skiing in June or July necessarily, but you are in January and February. So the idea is that there's seasonality in businesses. And if you don't truly understand the seasonality, it can be minor, it can be big. Seasonality isn't just based on quite literally the weather, right? That's just what the term is drawn from. Think ski slopes, for example. Seasonality can be billing processes, vendor relationships, payment structures, right? Where customers and vendors have different payment expectations, job completions. If you're in construction and you're doing, say, groundwork, like you're not digging in January and February necessarily because the ground is frozen sometimes, right? It's really hard to work in those conditions. Or if it's a really wet season, you're going to do less work for certain jobs, right? And that's just construction. So the idea is that every business has some level of seasonality. And by looking back over monthly financial statements, you're able to really take a quick look at what the business is doing and where it's at, and how to peg those values to protect yourself when you go in. So seasonality is something that's super important. Again, it can be minor or it can be big, but you really have to hone in on that. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, I grew up doing deals in the technology industry, and mostly with software companies. And you know, before the advent of SaaS, which is software as a service, where you pay for software monthly per user. In the olden days, you just buy a big license and have it implemented. And most corporates bought all their software either in December or January. So in December, because they were spending money out of their budget they had left, or they were spending it in January once they'd got their new budget for the ensuing year. So you saw those businesses have huge spikes. So they would make 60, 70% of their revenues in those 2 months, and more than 100% of their profit. And people say, well, how can you have 100% of your profit in 2 months? That's because in all the other months, they're actually losing money. So the lesson there is you need to buy a business with the peak amount of working capital. You know, you wouldn't buy one of those software companies in February because you got to trade a whole 10 months losing money before you then get those big spikes. Better to buy it in November.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And again, pretty much every business has some level of seasonality to it. So it's important to really analyze that. Okay, so Gerardo, I have a deal. It's a broker deal. I've requested many times to talk to the owner. He's blocking access. I've signed an NDA that I would not contact her. How can I go around the guy? He's doing a disservice to the owner. Before we answer this question, I'm going to go, there's one other question that the answer is very similar. Hold on one second. How to do a deal with a business owner who wants all cash up front and a quick exit. So the reason I'm coupling those two questions, you already know where I'm going with this. So again, question one, the broker is providing a barrier between me and the seller, so I can't talk to them. And question number two, I am talking to a seller, they want all cash and a quick exit. Well, what am I to do as a buyer? Well, the answer is the same first.
Run. Go to another deal.
Yeah, listen, stop worrying about deal heat, right? Like there's literally millions of companies out there available to buy. We've already talked about there is no perfect deal. This one isn't the perfect deal. Listen, walk away. Say, listen, as a result of not being able to discuss with the seller, I'm not interested in buying this company. I'm going to take my business elsewhere and my acquisitions elsewhere. And guess what? They will likely call you back at some point. If they don't, no harm, no foul. At the end of the day, there's too much opportunity out there for people to get hung up over little things. Now, I'm not saying you don't ask the questions, and I'm not saying you just throw your hands up and give up at the first time of any friction or the first hurdle you come across. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. If you do that, you'll never buy a company because every deal has hurdles. What I'm suggesting is when you're hitting a true brick wall, in terms of a broker in this situation, walk away. It's just not the deal for you. And that broker is going to have a really hard time selling that company. That's his problem, not yours. Yeah. When it comes to, hey, I've got a seller who only wants all cash and no risk, and they just want to exit. Well, guess what? That's not the deal for you. That's not the situation for you. We got to be careful generally as deal makers of taking square pegs and fitting them into round holes. You can't do it. You can't force it because the moment you force it, you're going to be unhappy. The seller is going to be unhappy and the broker is going to be unhappy. If all three of you are unhappy, that's not a deal that's worth doing, period. So I've coupled those together. There's more nuances to what I've just said, but by and large, you have to walk away. It's not worth it.
Three little things from me on this. So Adam's absolutely right. This is a numbers game. You can't legitimately find just one deal and make it work. It's possible. People have done it, but you'll roll over. You'll do everything in your power to close the deal. You'll end up paying too much money. You'll raise too much financing. It's possible, but play the numbers game. Get lots and lots of deals in your funnel. And then that will change your entire psychology. You'll be able to pivot backwards and forwards on deals. Back to brokers specifically. If the broker is not going to let you talk to a seller, that gives you one massive clue, which is that deal is a very recent listing. So we talk about this all the time. Brokers are in the business of selling businesses to other businesses. They know in a leveraged buyout scenario where they're selling the business to an individual who's going to finance the deal, we're not going to be able to pay the premium valuation that potentially a trade buyer can pay. And we know there's a trade-off because we're there to protect the legacy and the employees and the history of the business, and trade buyers typically strip the businesses and destroy them. So brokers get big upfront fees for listing businesses. So in the early stages of a listing, don't be disappointed if they don't even put you forward. They're looking for trade buyers that are large, have got lots of cash, and can try and get somewhere close to those crazy valuations that some brokers will sadly put on a deal. I would never touch a broker deal if it hasn't been listed for at least 9 months, sometimes 6, depends on the seller psychology. But if a seller wants all cash and the broker won't let you talk to them, those are big clues that this is a very, very recent listing. So leave it, go on to another deal, but go back in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, see where they are. They've probably not sold that business and their expectations have probably come way down. So keep them in your funnel and keep in touch with them.
Yeah, and this final piece is, frankly, in my opinion, more important than anything we've just said. Literally more important. Do not burn your bridges on the way out the door.
Never.
I was working with a partner this week through our partner program, and I was on a deal. We just can't get to where the seller wants. We just can't do it. And so made it very clear. We've got to leave this in a positive way, right? You've got to say, listen, we're just not going to be able to get there. That's just not where our offer structure is going to be able to reach. And this was after they said, oh, we got another offer and there's all this cash and blah, blah, blah. We just can't change it. Here's what our model says. You don't even need to get into that detail. You just say, listen, we're not able to get there. However, it's not that we're not interested. We just, if you've got that kind of an offer on the table, it's definitely better for the sellers. We'd rather them pick the other offer. However, if things don't work out, just give us a call. We're happy to reevaluate the deal at that point. Always leave things in a very positive manner. Even if you're walking away and you're frustrated and angry, always leave it in a positive manner. This world is far too small for you going around and stomping on the flower beds of everyone you've ever talked to, right? You cannot go around just upsetting people because you're frustrated. It won't work. This is a relationship business. You have to have strong relationships. So you go in and you say, listen, I'm just not going to be able to pursue this further without being able to have access to the seller to ask relevant questions to my own deal analysis. As a result, I'm not going to be able to move forward. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for putting this information memorandum together. I'm hoping we can work together in the future on some other deal. If things change and I'm able to have a conversation with the seller, please let me know, give me a call, and I'm happy to consider re-engaging at that point. Thanks for your time. And then you walk away, right? It's pretty straightforward. It's just a relationship game. However, you've got to play it and you've got to do it well. Because this is where you go from having doors closed in your face to brokers. Some brokers are really good. Let me be clear. Some are really good. So for the ones who are really good, build that relationship, because all of a sudden that might not be the deal for you, but the other 10 they have on their listing might contain a deal that is for you, right? So you've got to just be so incredibly focused on the relationship side of this.
Yep. Very, very important. I agree. Massively important.
Arguably more important than runaway, in my opinion. Like, it all goes back to relationship. Frankly, I feel like there's no true secret sauce to anything except be a relational person.
Yep. Run away and be magnanimous.
Ooh, that's an SAT word, my friend. Nice job.
I know. Magnanimous.
All right, so got a couple more here. John said, just want to say your share with Jeremy earlier today was absolutely awesome. I'm not sure who Jeremy was or is. So
Jeremy Harbour.
Oh,
our buddy Jeremy.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah, so let's see here. Man says, looking to move back to the US in August, want to start origination before moving back. How do I go about doing that? Living in Nigeria at the moment. Well, the easy answer, and I feel like maybe a salesman at this point, but the easy answer is, listen, we teach you how to do every bit of deal origination in the programs. I have to encourage you to go and invest in the programs. It's, you know, we've got every type of method, LinkedIn, direct, I mean, brokers, we talk about all of it. So, so I'd encourage you to go, you know, without us walking through in detail all the steps and pieces. You know, all that's been put together and available for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just one other thing to that. So the fact that you're in Nigeria and you're moving back to the US, you're in the exact same situation right now as somebody that is in the US and might be 5 miles away from the business. We're all remote. We're all networking remote. We're all originating deals remote. So once you've got the systems in place through the training, you're in the exact same position as anybody when it comes to originating deals. Really interesting question from Joseph, Adam. I'd like to be a matchmaker between private capital and qualified buyers who may need finance like a bridge loan. I take profits on a small spread and a negotiated equity kicker on the back end. Thoughts on that model? So that's a very mature, established model in this marketplace. You've got angel investment networks, you've got crowdfunding platforms, you've got financing brokers, and they all charge a contingent fee, which typically is 5% of the money raised, and then that comes down as the funds go up. In terms of bridging loans, I really don't like bridging loans. Because there's a misconception that you can't buy a business, you can't finance the acquisition of a business until you actually own it. That is actually true, but let me explain. It's exactly the same as you buying a house. So when you buy a house, you offer up the asset of the house, you go and get somebody to lend you some money to buy it, that money goes into escrow, and then the physical moment you sign the purchase agreement to buy the house, the money flows through the system from you and pays the seller. It's exactly the same when you buy a business. You offer up the assets of the business or the cash flows or the plan to get equity investing or whatever. All that money goes into legal escrow. And then as soon as you sign the deal and you're the owner, the money then flows through the system. But I don't like bridging loans. Bridging loans are where you borrow a ton of money at a crazy rate. You've got to give personal guarantees. You've got to sign your house away. And then once you buy the business, then you look to do a refinancing. Now, that's not what we teach. You can do it by raising the normal financing first.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. It is a really mature model. You see it often in the real estate space, and it just doesn't work quite as well with businesses, because you don't have that kind of follow-on. You just don't have that follow-on financing market that you have in real estate, where you're doing the bridge loan, you're doing some value add, and then you're going and doing a traditional refinance into a more standard commercial loan. You just don't have that as much. Let's hear. So that was from Joseph. So, hey guys, I know overall how to read a balance sheet and P&L, but what books, guides, resources do I need to access so I can understand the story behind the numbers? Carl?
My first answer to that.
I
went to get a book, but my first answer to that is Dealmaker CEO module number 5, which is all about valuing a business and structuring a business, and the 10% of financial accounts that you need to understand to do a deal. Because here's the difference. What most accountancy courses will tell you and what most accountancy books will tell you is how to read accounts. And 90% of that stuff is not really important when it comes to buying a business. What those books don't teach you, what those courses don't teach you, is what I call financial optics. So it's the ratios, the KPIs, and the information that you need about the numbers in the business to be able to value it, structure it, and make an offer. That is not covered generally in accountancy training per se. So we go through all that stuff in module 5 of Dealmaker CEO. If you want a quick book to read in the interim, this one, Keys to the Vault, Keith Cunningham. 70-year-old Texan, good deal maker, has owned lots of businesses. He actually doesn't like accountants for the reasons I've just described. He's all about the business optics, the real numbers in a business that makes sense. So Keys to the Vault, Keith Cunningham, is the only book I've ever read that really goes into some of that detail. Doesn't really tell you how to buy businesses, but it will give you the understanding of what numbers are really important in the business. But to value, structure, and offer on a deal, module 5 of Dealmaker CEO.
Well, very good. Absolutely. And guys, if you've got more questions, just drop them in the chat. We're happy to get to them. Got another one here, Carl. Well, I guess a follow-up from Mansa, who's in Nigeria. So yeah, you're in Dealmaker CEO. Just check out the origination stuff. The answer to the secondary question you asked is, can you get it started before you move back? The answer is yes. You can be deal originating from anywhere in the world. Why? Carl, are you at home?
Yes.
Am I at home?
Yes.
Are most people at home?
Yes.
Great. So we can be doing this while we're at home. We don't have to be in the location where we're originating. And we're looking at companies all the time. And so super important to remember, you don't have to be where you are planning to be to buy a business. You can originate, have conversations, do Zoom calls, just like we're doing right now. You can do all of that. And I would encourage you to get started as soon as possible, right? We want, and we hope for, and we look for students who take action. And really that's what we want for you. We want you to be able to grow and improve your life in a way that frankly is going to be so impactful. You're going to look back to the kind of pivotal moments where you made the decision to take action. It's just something that's really important to Carl and I. And kind of to that end, we're about 5 minutes away from a pretty cool announcement. So stick with us. If you guys have any other questions, give us an ask, and we'll answer. So Dinar has asked, is it possible to do deal making on the side while still in school as an adult? If yes, what would be different? So everything that is put together in Dealmaker Wealth Society is really put together for really 3 reasons that tie to the name itself, right? As a deal maker, you don't have to be doing this full time, right? This can be something you're doing several hours a week. However, just because it doesn't mean you're not working full time on it, doesn't mean you're not putting in work. That is a really critical element that Carl and I feel very passionate about, is that you've got to do work to be a deal maker. We don't want people to buy the course, and we don't want people to become deal makers who aren't willing to put in the work. We want people who are action takers and who are willing to take the information, the training, the education, the tools, the knowledge,
implement,
and use it. You've got to implement it. None of this matters if you're just doing it for entertainment purposes. So that's first and foremost. So as a deal maker, you've got to put in the work. But deal making is not a full-time job in and of itself, unless you're, say, Carl, back on Wall Street when that's what he was doing, right? You don't need but several hours a week to really move the ball forward. This is time spent originating, time spent building relationships, time spent building your network, then time spent doing financial analysis and working through the entire buy process, right? All of this can be done on a part-time basis. The second part of Dealmaker Wealth Society that ties to this is wealth, right? We're ultimately trying to increase wealth. If you're a student now, even as an adult, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for 6 years from now, 10 years from now? At what point are you going to decide to actually take action to the next step of your life? Until you actually commit to the journey and commit to the process of changing your life financially, you'll never move forward, right? And so wealth is really important to us. We want to help you build wealth for yourself and your family, and frankly, build the life you've always wanted. And that's really critical for us. So Dealmaker Wealth is really important. Finally, a society. And to me, this is really the undersung hero of the entire package, right? Every single step along the way, we have private Facebook groups, opportunities for people to find partners, find other deal makers, ask questions for people who have done deals and are doing deals and are going through the process. You know, it's one thing for Carl and I to pontificate about how good this is and how easy it is for everyone to do it. But listen, We've got real students who are actually doing deals, are actually finding success, right? And that's important for you to realize that you can have access to that if you take action. And that is really, really critical. You have to be an action taker or you're not going to move forward. That's just, it's super critical. So
I think that's really a really key point, Adam, for a couple of reasons. I think, first of all, like clearly, you guys look at Adam and I, and we've probably done 450 deals between us. So clearly, we know how to do deals. But what's really interesting is there's people in the Facebook groups that 3 months ago, 6 months ago, were sat where you guys are right now and haven't closed deals. So learning their best practices as well and how they've navigated some of the hurdles in their deals, I think is just as important as understanding as gurus what Adam and I are teaching you. And a little quick funny story. So one of my mentors in life is Tony Robbins. First time I ever met Tony Robbins, I went up to him and I said, Tony, I'm so grateful for all of the knowledge that you're sharing with us. And he said, and he looked at me, he said, execution trumps knowledge every single time. It's not about what I teach you, Carl. It's about what you do with it. You've got to frickin' implement this stuff. It's all about taking action, taking massive action, as he talks about it. And all that comes down to your mindset. Once you know exactly what type of business you want to buy, more importantly, why you want to buy it. We've talked about legacy and wealth creation and all those different things. Once that is dialed in and you're in a mental space that can do it, that will give you the fuel and the purpose and the energy to push you forward. Nothing will stop you.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of that is a perfect segue to what we've been teasing all hour, and that is students who take action. Literally next week, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. GMT, so the UK time zone, we are going to have one of our students, a guy named Eric. He just closed on an $8 million company 2 days ago. So you're going to have a chance to meet him, talk to him, ask questions, and we're going to do the same. So we're going to spend about a half an hour talking to him, learning about his process. We're going to do it live on YouTube a week from today. So if you want to see someone who's actually done it, that's not me, not Carl, one of our students. You know, we're not paying him to say any of this. We're not doing any of that. He's just someone who's excited to share his story. And he did it through the Dealmaker CEO and Dealmaker Academy program. Like, he's been able to do all of that. Carl and I didn't help him with the deal other than him having access to the training. So super excited to have him next week, next Friday, YouTube Live. If you want to see that and make sure you don't miss it, you've got to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You will get a notification when we go live, and it's incredibly important that you don't miss this. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, we're not going to share any more of the detailed numbers today. We'll let Eric share those numbers with you next week. But the numbers in this deal are insane. And this guy didn't invest a single dollar of his own money. It's an unbelievable deal. And it's just a really, really cool story about how he found the deal, how he structured the deal, how he built the relationship. So without further ado, we'll let Eric tell the story next week. So you've got to show up.
Yeah, and it's just super incredible, right? And at the end of the day, listen, you know, we don't do this just for us, right? Like, Carl and I have the option to never teach anyone. We have the option to just never do any of this. We do it because we want to change your life. And that's something that's important to both of us from our own personal legacy standpoint. We're not required. We could be more than comfortable, and frankly, we already are, doing deals on our own. We don't need this. However, we do it because we want to change your life. And the best way to do that is to have you guys actively engaged and to take action. You got to take action.
And that's so important. You know, we spoke to Eric last night, and you know, I know you guys think I'm a badass, and I am, but last night when we were chatting with him, I was almost in tears when I was listening to his story. And, you know, he's building generational wealth, this guy, that is going to help him leave a legacy. And, you know, legacy is, you know, word of the day. It's one of the most important words. If you sawed me in half, you'd see legacy printed through me like a stick of rock. So that's why we do this. It's not, we've got enough money to do whatever we want to do. We're doing deals ourselves. It's about legacy. It's about changing those lives. And it's about empowering people just to take the action that you need to make this happen. So we want to share these stories with you, and you'll get a lot of benefit from listening to Eric. So you've got to show up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you for that session at 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UK next Friday. This time next week. This segment.
Yeah, guys, we're looking forward to it. Thanks again for another awesome session here on YouTube. We absolutely love connecting with you. And if you haven't done so, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, especially to make sure you catch next week. Go to our Facebook pages, like Dealmaker Wealth Society. The best way for you to get access to all of the stuff we're doing is to follow us on all our social media accounts. For Dealmaker Wealth Society and otherwise, we want to see you there. We want to be able to engage with Dealmaker ideas and what's happening. So we're looking forward to it. We're constantly trying to add value to you guys, because a mission for us is to change the business buying environment. And to do that, we need to help as many people as possible. It's what we're building. It's our legacy, and it's something we're never to forget. Just like Carl is never going to forget the story of his grandfather, his grandmother, and really just the powerful message that means for all of us. So guys, thanks again. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on Monday, Mindset Monday, Facebook Live, 11 a.m. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And remember, you got to be an action taker. You're only one deal away from changing your life. And are you going to take the steps and the action to do so? Start now. This weekend, today, do it. Change your life.
Yeah, and two big action steps for you guys that I want you to do this weekend. So if you're in Dealmaker CEO already, get in there, get back stuck into the training, and start implementing what we teach you. And if you're not in any of our programs right now, download my business buying blueprint. There's a link, I believe, Adam, beneath the video. Download that blueprint, read it this weekend. It's a great primer to get you started in this line of business and in this way of life. So we'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Until then, bye for now.
See you guys. Have a great weekend.